Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Behind the Bars TV. In this episode, we're doing a podcast with Clive Broughton, and Clive is from Sheffield. Are you still in Sheffield, Clive?
Yes.
So, Clive is from Sheffield, and he's had quite a colourful past. He spent 12 years in the prison systems, and he was in HMP Wakefield, what everybody knows as the original Monster Mansion. And we're going to get into that later on in the podcast. But Clive has been out of prison for 20 years now. He's doing well. And he's also got a book out called Jailhawk, which is on Amazon. But I will put the links in the description. But we're just going to start a little bit about talking about the book. So, Clyde, the book is called, is it Jailhawk?
Jailhawk.
And could you just tell us a little bit about the book and what the book is about?
Yeah, it was just about me growing up, my family, what we went through as kids, and how I got into crime at an early age, going through prison systems, quite a few jails. In fact, talking about old pals, Paul Sykes.
So that's going to be a lot about what we're covering in this podcast, and so more or less we'll be going through your book.
Yeah.
So, Clyde, if you would just like to introduce yourself, where were you born and where did you grow up?
Right, my name's Clyde Broughton. I'm from Sheffield. I was brought up at a place. I was born at Hillsborough, near Sheffield Wednesday football ground.
So, what was life like being a kid living in them areas? Because Sheffield, what was the nickname of Sheffield? Was it the Steel Town?
Steel City.
Steel City.
Yeah, a lot of deprived places. Growing up, we had notice. My dad, he was a coal man. He'd been in, he was in Second World War, my dad. He was a Chindit and guerrilla warfare in Burma, Egypt, Italy, fighting Japs. I had a brother what were in a wheelchair. He could hardly move his body, really. He had to be fed. And he didn't last long. He died when he was 18. And I started getting in trouble when I was about 12 years old.
So, was this
Not
around
through.
the age your brother died then? Around about the time then?
Well, it happened just before that. My brother died in 74. And I first started going away to remand homes and assessment centres when I was 12.
And do you think that had a lot to do with your brother dying?
Uh, no, not really, because my brother, he became handicapped at an early age, about 6 years old, my brother. And the doctors told my mum that he'd be lucky if he saw 21 because he was that severely invalid. And he died when he was 18. That was in 1974.
So, growing up then, like you say, when you're around about 12-year-old, when you first started getting into trouble, what was the reason behind that? Or I could quite imagine if it was like a bit of a poverty-stricken place. A bit like when I grew up, there wasn't much in the neighborhood. We didn't have much. And our bit of entertainment was going out and getting into trouble. That's what we used to think was fun at that age.
Yeah, well, like I said, like we had nothing us because when my brother became handicapped, my dad had to come out and work to look after him full time, and we had nothing. And I mean nothing. Like I used to go to school with holes in my shoes and my socks sticking out at the end of my shoes and things like that. And we just used to go out and we found that thieving, even at an early age, like shoplifting and doing things like that, were getting us bits of money. So that's what we did as young kids. Like we used to go out shoplifting. We used to go into town in Sheffield and we'd go in a sports shop, nick a bag, like a sports bag, and then we'd go clothes shops where they sell old trendy gear at that time, like your Oxford bags and your stay press, and we used to grab them because there were no alarms them days. There were no cameras or all like that, and we used to grab racks of them and put them in bag and just shoot out and shop and sell them to people.
I can imagine back then, like you say, no cameras, crime would have been a lot easier to commit if you were into that sort of thing.
Oh, it were looking back now, it was so easy. It was like somebody giving you money, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Was this what you first started getting into trouble with the police?
Yeah, first time I went away, I was 12 years old, but I used to wag school as well. So I was never going to school. Only thing me and my mates used to do, we used to go downtown and shoplift every single day. And we got caught a few times, and courts just got sick of me because I was there all the time. And they sent me to a remand home called Sykes, and it were like for a 3-week assessment. Then on first time, when you went back to court, see how you got on, they always let you go and like give it a chance, if you know what I mean. But within a couple of weeks, I was back, 12-year old, did my 3-week assessment again, and then got a care order, which I had to go to an approved school just on the other side of York, near Moulton, called Castle Howard.
So
So
talk us
that's
through
where
this here, the remand centre. What sort of centre is this? Is this where you're actually locked inside? Is it like a prison?
it it was an horrible place, Ricky. Really strict, and I mean, if you did anything wrong, you got it. Like the screws, like they were bastards. They really used to beat it up as kids as well, and they were big men, like prison staff, really, ex-army and things like that. And yeah, they used to beat it up, and we started escaping from there. Like they weren't bars on windows, but they were just like frames with square windows in them. And if you could get out without them seeing you, you could pop a window and shoot out.
Right.
and we did that, but I was that bad at it. What I mean by that is I was escaping that much. They couldn't handle me, so they decided that I had to go to a place far away, and they sent me to Castle Howard,
And where's that one at?
just on the other side of York, near a place called Moulton.
Oh, right,
Uh,
Melton. So what was that place like then? Was that a lot worse?
no, it were it was sound, and I must stress because a lot of people said they get tampered with, and like sexually abused with screws and things like that. What I can remember, that never ever happened. And yeah, it was all right in there, to be truthful. We had big football pitches. We used to go out places, like obviously with screws and that. But yeah, it was all right. But I ended up escaping from there as well. I was at it all the time, but there were nowhere else to send me really. Then for kids, there weren't no secure units.
Right, aye.
It was just like send you away as far as possible, and you'd think twice really if you're going to escape. But we used to do it all the time. Me and a guy from Hull and a kid from Halifax, we just used to do it all the time, and they used to put us in a room at night with a locked door, so we couldn't escape in night.
Were you ever fighting with the other kids then?
Well, I was quite good at sports, mate. Football, table tennis, things like that. And kids used to get a bit pissed off with me because they could never beat me at table tennis. And you know what kids are like, they get fucking aggressive. Or, do you know what I mean? Yeah, just bits to fights. But my main fighting came when my brother died, because I was in Castle Howard at the time when my brother died. And I didn't go back off home leave because of this. And when I got back and people found out about it, only young kids and that, same age as me, used to take piss. So, yeah, I had quite a few fights from that.
I can imagine being that age and that happening, your brother and the kids trying to take the piss out of you. You're going to react in a violent way, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I didn't only react violent, it made me run off more then, do you know what I mean? But it was that far away, York, from Sheffield, and you were right out in countryside, really out in sticks. And when you got out, one time I got out, and I was out for about 6 hours, and I walked in a massive circle, and I ended up back at place.
Oh.
And that was about, we used to go to bed about 8 o'clock. So I went out and I came back about 3 o'clock in the morning, got back in bed, and they never even knew I'd gone. I was knackered.
I bet you when they found out that when you did actually escape and they found out when you came back or when they dragged you back, I bet they give you a good beating, did they?
Oh, yeah, like fucking hammers, like. But like I said, it weren't like Shycliffe. Shycliffe were really, really strict. In Castle Howard, they gave you a bit of leeway, if you know what I mean. But they did, yeah. If you once you got caught from escaping, it weren't like escaping a whole lie, like you could just walk out, do you get me? If you wanted to. But yeah, because yeah, they used to give some fucking slaps like.
I bet. What was your home life like at this point? Obviously, with your mom and that, I imagine your mom was quite upset with you being in there and losing our other son.
Yeah, well, like I said, like my mother and father didn't have no, and I never got visits. But every now and again, they used to give us leaves. Like if you were really good, you could get weekends away. But every 3 months, they give you 9 days away. And I didn't really get weekends because I was never rate good, if you know what I mean. And I would always pissing about and taking piss with them. But yeah, I used to get my own leaves, and on my own leaves, that's when my brother died. Like, and that's when I really started. Then after I got out in Castle Howard, I did 3 years in there, and when I got out in Castle Howard, I started like burgling then, and that was my game. I was a burglar.
What age was it? About 15, 16?
15, 16, yeah, I went really off at rails. Like I've spoke in my last podcast, and if it weren't bolted down and I could take it, it would come in with me. But I got into burgling with a pal of mine who was a lot older than me. Dave Lee, they called him, who'd been in dispersal system quite a few times, and I ended up teaming up with him. And I weren't out long from a proof school, maybe about a few months, and I ended up doing 2 whacks DC, Watten, they called it in Nottingham, and one in Boston called North Sea Camp.
I've heard of those, the prisons now, aren't they?
Yeah, they were fucking seriously, Ricky. They were the worst places I'd ever been. They didn't mess about in them places.
I've heard a lot of stories about the detention centres there. That was like from 15 upwards, was it?
Yeah, they called them a short, sharp shock. But yeah, if you listen, we were kids, like, and if you got caught pushing into dinner queue, you really got it. You got a paste in, do you know what I mean? They used to make you come. They used to come in your dormitories at night, even if nobody were doing no wrong. 2 o'clock in the morning, and make you get out of bed and make bed packs. 2 o'clock in the morning, do you know? Just wake you up and make you fold all. You know what a bed pack is, don't you?
You've got a meat on the end of your bed.
Yeah, and used to make you do that at 2 o'clock in the morning. March everywhere. Go on Parade Square, freezing cold this time of year with shorts on and like little t-shirt, fucking shivering. Yeah, it's the worst place I'd ever been in detention centre.
I heard a lot of stories about him. Like you say, I spoke with somebody who said, yeah, they used to make you do like circuit training, like burpees, all that type of training every morning, out flogging you.
Yeah, every single day, mate, and it was an horrible place. But like I said, I was good at sports, mate. I was a decent footballer, and I PIs were great with me because I even when I was 15 and I was playing football, I used to play for schools in detention centre.
Oh,
Do you know they used to have teams coming in playing schools, and then they used to let me play for them because I was a decent player, you see. So the PIs they were sound with me. So yeah, it was an horrible place, but I used to get me sports, so that
kept you
get
focused.
my mind something to think about. Do you know what I mean?
So I bet you're in those prisons. There's a lot more fighting going on with the inmates amongst each other, isn't there?
Yeah, all the time. In where I were in Broughton, there weren't many Sheffield lads in. It were mostly Manchester kids from Moss Side and Cheetham Hill and places like that.
So did they
And yeah,
all have their own little cliques, like little gangs?
yeah, they had their own firms. I were in a firm, and it's just like you see. It was just like you see on telly, like head of their firm had one of the head of our firm, and they were always bollocks. All time, like all these kids what were in detention centre, they were all like rough and redhead. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
You could see where they were going further on in life.
Ready for a good fight, good scrap.
Yeah,
Well, I suppose if you're being brought up as well, like you said, mentioned earlier on, when you're getting beatings off the screws from the age of 12, it's going to make you tough, isn't it? So getting a beating off another kid your age isn't going to be as bad as it.
nah, nah. And we did take some beatings when we were younger off at schools. So like having a fight with a kid at 15 years old, it's if I can take a screw at 16 stone, like what's going to give me some cosh? A 15-year-old kid's not going to. Do you know what I mean?
Did you enjoy fighting then?
Sometimes, yeah, I like to have a fight with somebody. Like I didn't cause fights. That weren't my
But
that
obviously,
weren't my thing.
you were ready for
That
it.
that weren't my thing. But I were always ready for it. But you had to be in them places, especially in detention centres. You had to be ready for it because, like, all dorms were open and that, and you used to get kids coming in sometimes if they got grievances with other guys, and they'd fucking bed leg them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if you got bollocks with somebody in there, you had to sleep with one eye open, really.
Well, I spent time in the young offender prisons, and that was from the ages of 18 to 21. And that was
Mm,
sort of similar. I don't think
yeah,
it's definitely not as bad as what the detention centres were. But obviously,
mm,
18 to 21-year-old lads, all full of testosterone, raging, fighting every day. But again, it
yeah,
was just like nobody really took it serious. It was just a bit of fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But well, that's how you looked at it, like, but. It would every day fighting, but every day in them detention centres and Borstal. It would all time.
So how long did you spend in there? Did you say it was did you get a couple of
No,
years, did you say?
no, detention centres were like between 6 weeks and 2 months.
All right, got you.
But I did two of them. Like I did North Sea Camp. Do you know what my job were in North Sea Camp? It were going out, and there were loads of how can I explain this? You're out in sticks, and there were little rivers, streams running through these fields, and they used to make us get in streams and take bricks out and streams. Fucking dead serious, lad. You used to make us take bricks out and streams and put them all in buckets.
Oh, freezing cold.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, but it soon went on in them detention centres, because he were only short. That's why they called it a short, sharp shock.
Aye.
Do you know, to your system?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I did two of them.
Try and deter you from coming back.
Fucking serious, yeah. But well, yeah. Going back to a detention centre, because like I said, like there were nowhere worse than that. Not forgetting your kickings and things like that. Anyway.
So moving on, when you got to like say around about 18, 19, what was happening then?
Well, when I did my two detention centres, I come out, and obviously I weren't ready to pack up crime or all like that. I just carried on burgling, uh, and did some more burglars. I was absolutely shite at it at the time. But we always used to say like get seen, because what we used to do,
Was it shops or houses or different things?
houses. Houses, shops, yeah, shops now and again. Like when videos first came out, your Betamax and your VHS, they used to you could walk past the shop and you'd see them all in window. Now, only thing, there were no cameras, like I said. Only thing there would be an alarm, on shop.
Aye.
You just keep doing it, run in and nick all videos and throw them in a car and shoot off. Because when we were doing jobs, we used to nick cars, and it was so easy. Like you could get another car key what would actually fit a different mecha car.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You just used to put it in, check it about, check the key about, and it's a grab connection and start the car. And yeah, that's what we used to do. And we used to do it with burglaries as well. But I ended up doing two whacks of Borstal, both in Weatherby, which were open Borstals. And what we had to do there on induction, Ricky, we had to run round racecourse. Weatherby racecourse is bang across road from Borstal.
Right.
And on induction, you had to run round the racecourse.
What
Not
I'm
all of it, just
what
like a
I'm
third of it. Fucking yeah, and if you didn't do it in a certain time, you had to carry on doing it every day until you got to that time.
I
But
suppose,
Borstal,
suppose in a
sorry,
group where you used to get you fit.
yeah, really fit, and that's where I really got into it, into fitness, like into circuits and things like that. Because I used to be Jim Maudsley in there, and yeah, I had access to everything. Like I could join in with all lessons what were going off. As long as I did my work, I could play volleyball, basketball, five-a-side. I could even go on racecourse and run round, which I used to. I used to voluntarily go on it. Do you know what I mean? Because I was fit and I enjoyed it.
And what age was this then?
17,
17, yeah.
yeah. But I did two whacks of Borstal, both at Weatherby. I did 9 months out on both. I didn't get in much trouble in Weatherby. Yeah, we're all right. Got out from there when I was 19. I got caught for two burglaries, two house burglaries, and I did a robbery. It was a street robbery. I got a phone call. This was in 1980. I got a phone call off a mate telling me that this guy had just won 1,200 quid in bookies, and they paid him out and he was on his way home. I was in a pub, mate, at the time, Springwood, on Woodthorpe Estate in Sheffield. And I got the phone call while I was in pub. So he told me where he lived, this guy, he knew him. And as he were walking down the road, I met him. And I just ran up to him, chinned him, took the bag off him. But this woman saw me who knew me. And I went on an ID parade. She grassed me up. And I had to go on an ID parade. And she picked me out. So I'd been on bail for the burglaries, but I got remanded, obviously, when I did robbery. I did 8 months on remand in Leeds. And when I went to court, I were in front of a guy called Judge Pickles. Have you heard of him, Ricky?
Oh, I've not heard of him, not.
No. We called him the hanging judge. He was a really bad one. And anyway, he gave me 3 years for burglary, burglaries, and he gave me 4.5 years for robbery,
Right.
consecutive. So it ran into it. So
You had to do the whole lot.
I had to do it, yeah. And I ended up in a long-term YP centre. You had to be doing 5 years to get in it. They called it Swinfernall, which was in Lichfield. Proper, like a jail, do you know what I mean? Proper gates on, everything, and lots of young lads, YPs doing HMP, life detained, all this. But you had to be doing a 5 stretch to get in. And with me doing 7.5 years, that's where I ended up.
So how did you feel in going in there with that sort of sentence?
Yeah. Well, I knew I were climbing ladder now, do you know what I mean? I knew I were getting ready for, but it still weren't deterring me at the time, like, because I was young, I was fit, and I was playing football. Like this jail, like it had football fields, they had outside teams coming in. I was Jim Ogley again. So my time, it was flying by. But I went on this course. They said to me, go on this course. It was anatomy and physiology, like human biology and that. And it was a 12-month course. And this SO said to me, he goes, you'll get parole if you do this course. So I did it for 12 months and I got a straight knockback on parole. So I'd had enough then. I was like 21 years old. So I put an application in to see governor and told him I wanted to go to Mesters jails. So I would accept it. Well, there was no they could do really because I was 21.
Right.
And so they sent me back to Armley, Leeds. I was there about 4 to 5 weeks. Then they sent me to Walton in Liverpool, which were long-term allocation centre for dispersal jails. Now, Wakefield was the closest dispersal system to, the closest dispersal jail to Sheffield. And while I was in Liverpool, I palled up with a few guys down there from Liverpool, Delroy Showers, Jimmy Tago,
I've heard
Johnny
of
Phil.
right.
I palled up with them, and they said to me, whatever you do, don't go to Wakefield. It's a nonsense jail. But I didn't think of that. They wanted me to go to Hull with them. But I never thought about it like that. I was thinking about visits because I got a girlfriend and that.
Yeah.
And it was easier for me. But I didn't know, like, it never sunk in I didn't know that there were child killers and extreme rapists, proper rapists, if you know what I mean, in them places. I just wanted to get there, dummy bird, and make it easy for my girlfriend and my friends to come and see me.
So Wakefield, I think it's still the same now. It's just predominantly all like nonsense in it.
Yeah.
There was no separate wings. Everyone was mixed in there, is there?
No, there was a National 43 wing, which was on B wing, but it was only one landing. That was the serious. That was like, proper kiddie killers and things like that, and nonsense kiddie figures. It would all them, but they used to get it. Like me, I had a pal from Wakefield when we was in there. They called him Ricky Skase, and a proper fucking violent bastard. And he was my mate. And the Screws approached us one day because their kids used to go to school in Dewsbury, and this guy had kidnapped a young girl, took her away, fucking, did what he did to her and then killed her. And the screws approached me and Ricky and asked us to get him off at landing because their kids, the screws' kids, went to the same school.
Yeah.
You get me? So they asked us to get him off the landing. So 8 o'clock in the morning. At that time, Ricky, you had a corner table what fitted straight into corner of your cell. It was like a triangle shape, and it had 3 legs on it. Well, my leg at back, what were keeping it all together, just used to come off. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, Moffat screw, proper screw, my landing officer, he opened my door and he says, nah, go and get him now. So me and Ricky met on landing and we went in his cell and fucking smashed him to bits with these bed legs. Didn't touch his head, just smashed him and smashed him and smashed him and really fucked him up. And I was in Wakefield a further 18 months after that, and he was still on that national 43s. He never came back off that national 43s. We really battered him. And like I said, Ricky he was doing 9 years, he cut somebody's throat, but he was a nice guy. But he was a really violent bastard, do you know what I mean? Really, really violent, like nonsense. Like at that time, when we used to go for his food, we had metal trays. Do you know what I mean?
I remember them. We had them when I first went into Durham prison.
Yeah, we had metal trays.
And, well, aren't they?
Oh, fucking hell. Many a time, like, going back to his cells with his food, you'd just hear this crash, and it'd be fucking Ricky just like battering these fucking nonsense with it. And they do some damage, them trays.
I can imagine.
Yeah, he used to fucking batter him, Ricky. Nonce Patrol, they used to call him. He spent a lot of time down Chokey as well through it. Fucking person, what were in there. Lashley was there as well, the Southampton rapist. Have you heard of Lashley? Black kid, fucking massive he was. Big scar down his face.
The name rings a bell. I'm sure I've read up on him before. So I've heard something about him.
Yeah, he's been in Franklin and places like that.
Right.
Yeah, proper, like, there were cannibals in there. What had fucking killed people and ate them, eating them.
Oh, them prisons, like them dispersal prisons, have got the worst of the worst. Everything, the worst thing you can imagine is in them places.
Yeah, people don't straight peck people don't realise what some of these people get up to. Fucking horrible, disgusting people. And you know, when they're on rule, like them national 43s, you can imagine them fucking sat in cells when they're on the bits of association, fucking telling each other what they've got up to.
So talking about Wakefield as well, I know Bob Maudsley would have been in there at the time because he's been in there. It's got to be wrong about 50 years or something. He's been in there now, and they've got him kept isolated in the cell all by himself.
Well, I can tell you. I can tell you there's a story about Bobby Maudsley. I got done me for barricading up. We barricaded up, me and 2 of my pals in Wakefield. What it were, I'd come back from gym, and then we didn't have like wash sinks in our cells or out like that, or toilets. It was just a fucking run down place, and we used to get a bowl from recess with water. So I didn't have time to get in shower. So I'm washing myself in this bowl. Got my ass in bowl, and screws come to spy up and shouted his names. And you have to show, in them larger cells, you have to show your face. So I said to Screw, goes, I'm having a bathing bowl. He went, show your face. Well, I've got 2 eyes tattooed on my ass. So I walked backwards like that and showed him my ass, so he nicked me. So we barricaded up, and we barricaded up for 2 days. Screws were outside with jacks. We've got beds up. Pattern, this other guy who I were in with, the Scottish guy, he's got his head behind bed, so they won't like jack door off, obviously. So after 2 days, we've run out of food. We've got nothing. So we said, like, we want to board of visitors there just to make sure that we didn't get our kickings on way down to Choker, F-Wing. And so anyway, 2 board of visitors were there. We came out and we ended up going down F-Wing. Now, block in Wakefield, F-Wing, they called it Fraggle Rock. That's what he called it. And yeah, and I was on tools. So next day, when I've been on adjudication, I ended up getting, because we smashed all hot plate up as well down in block, threw all grub up, food all or smashed all hot plate up, and I ended up getting 54 days block. So I'm on exercise outside. I got ball, I'm booting it about, and there's a guy, tall guy, right long hair, big bushy beard. He went, "All right, mate." I went, "Yeah, Scouser." He goes, "How long you here for?" I went, 54 days. He goes, "They call me Rob." I goes, "All right, Rob, I'm Clyde." Now, his windows were different to ours. In our cells, it was just little square windows, whereas his were like strips, and he could open it to about, I don't know, maybe 6 inches, 8 inches wide. So he used to put roll-ups and split matches and striker on windowsill for me to take, so I could have a smoke in myself. So on way back in, the screw said to me, he went, "Do you know who that is?" I went, "Rob." He went, "It's Robert Maudsley." He went, "He killed one in Broadmoor, one outside, and he killed 2 in Wakefield." He went, "He's a very dangerous man." He goes, "If you was in that cell with him, he'd most probably kill you." But later on, I found out that he only did nonsense anyway.
I did, I.
Yeah. So anyway, every day I used to talk to Rob Maudsley, and at night time, he'd shout me through a window, and conversation were, and it gave me fucking goose pimples, this, Ricky. We were talking about overcrowding in jails in early 80s, because I met Rob in 1981 in F-Wing, down block, and we were on about overcrowding just through conversation. And he went, "I know how to get rid of most of them. Let me on landing, I'll kill all fucking nonsense." That's what he said to me. But he didn't laugh. He didn't laugh when he said it. He fucking meant it. And I got goose pimples, me, when he said it. Because I remember what the screw told me, that he'd killed all these people. Yeah, but you
Well,
know, to talk,
yeah. The two
yeah,
that
he killed 2
he
nonsense in work. He killed
them on the
he
same
killed
day,
2
didn't he?
nonsense. Sorry.
Killed them on the same day, didn't he? He killed one, went and killed another, and then he was going for more.
Yeah, he weren't. They were a screw on list as well. But what he did, like they do roll checks while you're out on association.
Yeah.
Like they've gone up to, they're shouting these 2 guys, and Maudsley actually told them they were under bed. And I don't think they believed him at first. And like, anyway, fucking yeah. And then he went down to PO's office and pulled a big fucking blade out and get him. And yeah, and since that day, Robert, I think he was something like 77, 78, he did it. Since that day, he hasn't been on normal location.
Did he
He's
speak
been
about
in,
the murders in prison to you?
nah, no, Ricky. I, I knew what kind of fucking guy that he was. Do you know what I mean? I've we gained I got to know him quite well, just like talking to him and being on exercise. But his cell it was a cell within a cell. He got a cage on his door. He got his normal cell door. That when they opened that, there was a cage door, and they used to fucking feed him through an hatch. And wherever he went, there were like 6 screws with him. He was a big guy, Maudsley. When I first met him, and I know he looks different now, but he had really long black hair and a big bushy beard, and he was a big guy. So
before you found out what he'd done, what type of fella was he?
he was just a normal guy.
All right,
But I knew there was something not right because he had a telly in his cell in block. Do you know what I mean? I knew there was something not right. And I never asked him what he was in for or all like that. But I found him. Don't forget, he's behind a fucking window. You know what I mean? We're not like directly in contact. He's behind the window. And when I used to speak to him, he was just like me now talking to you.
Yeah.
He just seemed sound.
There was rumours about one of the ones that he killed in Wakefield, that he cracked his head open and he had a spoon in the side of his brain. I don't know whether that's true or not. I think it was rumours on it.
It's a load of bollocks, Ricky. He didn't eat the brain.
Hannibal the Cannibal.
Hannibal the Cannibal. That's just the press that knows making it bigger than what it were. That's all it is.
I thought that, when I've read up on it a few times, it was saying that was what supposedly happened when when they seen him through the door. But I knew it was just a load of bullshit from the press just to make it look worse.
It is a.
So talking about Paul Sykes, and when did you meet him?
I first met Paul in 1976. In that pub where I was on about, where I got my phone call from to do that robbery. 1976. He come down with what he were, a black Rolls Royce pulled up outside our pub. I was 16-year old. And Delroy Showers, Sykes there, David Dunford, John Wynne, and Ronnie Telthorpe, who I got to meet later on in life. They all got out in a black roller. And Delroy were giving all young uns outside 10 quids and taking them for rides in his Rolls Royce. But Sykes here David Dunford had some bollocks with a guy down our area. So he'd obviously fetched Sykes down to fill him in. But the guy weren't in. So my other mate, who I grafted with, my burgling partner, Dave Leake, he was really good pals with these. And he introduced me to Sykes. But it was only all right, how you getting on and that. Plus Sykes was in then, 1976, Sykes was a big fucking menacing guy. He was the type of guy that, when a gunslinger walks in a saloon and everything goes quiet. Okay. He had that aurora about him. But I got to know him more in jail. I met him in jail when I was about 22, something like that. And he recognised me straight away.
Were you two similar age?
No, Sykes is about 10 years older than me.
Right.
Sykes he was born in 46, 47. Well, he's about 13 years older than me. But what got me and Paul pals, we used to train together with weights. I used to be a powerlifter in Leeds, Nick. And Paul said to me, learn me how to lift weights, I'll show you how to punch. That's what he said to me. So, we used to do heavy squats and deadlifts and all that together. But we became close, me and Paul, as mates. And after prison, Like I used to go through and see him. He used to come to Sheffield and see me. We used to go out drinking together. Yeah, we became close friends.
So everybody that's been to prison, even people now, even the young ones coming up, everyone's heard of Paul Sykes and the prison system. Because I remember when I was in there 15 years ago, 10 years ago, everyone would hear about the stories about Paul Sykes. But I think a lot of the stories, because he used to do the screws in a lot as well, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
Fighting with
like
screws. He was always,
fucking Sykes. He was one of them. You could be talking to him 1 minute in a normal manner. You say something wrong, what fucking gets him? Boof, you're gone. He was one of them. But I must admit, Sykes never ever once had a go at me ever. But yeah, screws. But and that about him doing screws in with dumbbells, that's a load of bollocks as well. He didn't do them in with dumbbells, he fucking battered them. But they made it look worse to get him more bird.
well, I think most of his sentences was for fighting with the coppers on the outside as well, wasn't it? So obviously the coppers and the screws hated him.
Yeah,
And everyone will have known about these stories about
yeah.
Sykes that he used to batter young boys and drag them in his cell and do things to them. So what's your take on that then, Clyde? What's the
Ricky, I've been in showers with Sykes and people at my age as well, 22-year-old, just come off of YPs, and he's never ever fucking done anything like that. Like it's the screws. Put it this way, they said YPs, like cons weren't on YPs landings. Cons had their own landings, YPs were on their own. They were the screws because YPs like mess about a lot at night and all with noise. The screws used to say, if you don't fucking give up, we're going to put Paul Sykes in with you. Because they all knew that Paul was a fucking horrible bastard, a
Aye.
violent man. And like, he wouldn't stand for it. Like, I've got stories about Paul, what he's done. And yeah, but as far as non-sing goes, kids, it's a load of bollocks. It's just people making stories up. That's all it is. And it come from the screws to start off with. But you've got certain individuals on podcasts what carry it on.
Aye.
But the proper people like yourself, like Yama,
Yeah.
they don't believe this shit. Do you know what I mean? They don't believe it because they know it wouldn't happen. Because if it did happen, all the fucking tough guys on landing would fucking jump him, smash him to bits.
Aye.
And don't tell me, all these fucking guys, what he's supposed to have done, not one of them grassed him up because he hadn't even got a conviction for it.
Yeah.
If I was fucking raped in jail, I would have no qualms about going down to office and fucking telling the screws what he'd done to me.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? But in them days as well, if you didn't want to directly go, they used to have a fucking note. You could put a note in box. That's what grassers used to do, just put a note in the fucking box and bubble you up about things. But Sykes has not got one conviction. Nobody has come forward saying, yeah, he did it, he did this, he did that. It's a load of bollocks, Ricky. It's the screws what started this off.
It happens I think it's happening in nearly every city up and down the country. When I was in the young offenders, I used to say, oh, when you go to Durham, you're going to get bummed off such and such. He's going to get a hold of you just to put the frighteners on you. So obviously they used to say about Sykesy, but because he was so notorious in the prisons, it's
Yeah,
carried throughout the prison system, and everyone's believed it without any evidence.
yeah, yeah. It's a load of crap, Ricky. I like I say, I've been round Paul fucking a lot, and I never ever witnessed anything like that. And nobody, I never heard the fucking rumour me until like 2 or 3 years ago. Anyway, you know what I mean? So no, it never happened. He never ever raped a young kid and fucking get him tobacco. And there were even rumours that he used to put fucking page 3 women on the guys' backs. Crazy, isn't it? It's like, how do these rumours get about?
Like you see, when people make up rumors in prison and it gets spread about, by the time it's got to the other side of the prison, he's done 10 people when it's.
It's
Yeah.
right.
But when you mentioned when you knew Sykes on the outside, then did you know his family much? Because I know two of his sons are in prison serving life sentences for murder as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but I knew his sons when they were kids. But yeah, I was friends with Kath. I was friends with his sister. I mean, I could go to Sykes's house. In fact, when they got a little son, and I think it was a Down syndrome, his son, the little one. Jody called him, I think, if I remember right. And he phoned me up one night, Sykes said, because Kath were having this baby. And he was on his own, so he asked me to go through. So I went through. So I knew I was going to be staying at his house that night. So he says, do you want a drink? So we ended up going into Wakefield town centre. He went up to a bouncer at a nightclub, said something to him, and bouncer came out with a big crate of red stripe. Do you know, just so Sykes he didn't go in club. Fucking get him a crate of red stripe. So we just went home to Paul's house and just got bladdered. Because he couldn't, like, they didn't like him in pubs or in clubs. Because once he started getting a bit fucking tipsy, he could change. Yeah, and like, didn't matter who you were. Whether you were 4'5" or 6'5", you get same. You know what I mean? And like, people might think that that's like taking liberties, but he always said to me, Sykes, he says it only takes a 3-stone man to pull a trigger. So they all get same. That's what he said.
So did Sykes have 3 sons? Because I know in that documentary he had 2 sons with him, didn't he?
Yeah,
I've
but
been told that one of the lad that I met in Franklin, which was Sharpie, he
yeah,
was the lad that was on the documentaries, was he?
no. I think Paul had been married twice, you know. Something like that. I don't know if he'd been married twice, but maybe he got a young into another one. But yeah, he had Kath had 3 kids. But yeah, he had like a little Down syndrome kid, and that's when that's when I went through, because like he asked me to go through. That's the baby what she were having then at that time. Yeah, Sykes there.
But I think one of his sons is called Paul after him, isn't he? Is he one of the ones that's locked up for murder as well?
Yeah, there's 2 of them. I think one killed an ex-copper. Yeah, I think he got 25 wreck, and one of them killed somebody else.
Well, like I mentioned there, I met Sharpie when I was in Franklin prison, which is another high security dispersal.
Yeah,
Was I think he's around about the same age as me. I was 21 when I was in there. He was maybe he's a couple of years older than me.
yeah.
He was a big set bloke, massive. He could
Mm.
have a tear up as well. He'd had
Were
a
he
lot.
a bully, Ricky?
He was actually but this is when he got found out in prison because he had a lot of trouble with the Muslims, and he'd done one Muslim in down in Full Sutton. Apparently, the story I heard, he went in the showers after the lad. The lad, one of his arms was he had like a gammy arm.
Yeah.
Followed the lad in the shower because he's had some altercation with him. He sat on top of him with his good arm, and he supposedly carved him with a razor whilst he was on top of him. But he got
Mm.
sent up to Franklin. I met him up there, and then he was going around the wing. He was taxing the dealers, and he was giving people a few slaps. And that's when I actually seen him getting stabbed in the neck with a coffee jar.
Mm.
Coffee jar full of chili powder. The lad went up behind him and rammed it in his neck. But that was because he'd been a bully on the wing. But everyone
Yeah.
out on the landings, everyone's clapping, shouting, boo, get off the wing. Because
Yeah.
you know yourself, people don't like bullies in prison, do they?
Yeah. No. No. They don't last long, bullies.
No.
No,
But then
you
not
get
long
told.
after that, he was down in HMP Strange Ways. I don't know if you know about that story.
Is that when he got swilled
He did.
with
I
sugar?
got hit with the poo balls and then swilled out.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
yeah, I heard about it.
why that was, but I heard along the grapevine, sorry, that that was for a similar thing. He was supposed to be taxing the dealers because he had a raging habit himself in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that happens to all fucking bullies. Like, don't matter even out here. When you're a bully, eventually one day you're gonna get it, aren't you?
Oh, definitely. I've seen it a few times in prison when people are going wrong like that. They don't last long.
No, no, there's always somebody bigger.
Because a lot of people think in prison that bullies are tolerated, everyone's bullying, but it's not. When you're in them big prisons, it's different to
Mm,
the local prisons. And at the local prisons, there's a lot of it going on, and a lot
yeah,
of people just turn their heads to it. But in the
yeah.
dispersal prisons, they'll not stand for it in there.
There's too many dangerous people in this den, the dispersal systems. They're not going to stand for that shit.
No,
And especially them what just keep quiet as well. You know what they are, but they keep quiet. They keep away from everybody, but they might just pipe up one day and smarten everything up.
hardly. Like,
Mm.
so moving back to when you were in Wakefield, then, and you moved on from there. When was the last time you were in prison? Like, what was your last sentence, and how
My
old?
last sentence was well, I did a couple of fours as well for burglaries. But my last sentence when I got out in '99, that was for having counterfeit credit cards. We used to have them made. Me and my pal Billy Barnes, he's gone now. We used to have them made. It was cost us 300 quid a piece, but we were guaranteed a £2,000 transaction on them. And we used to go round. They never went through the stripe. So what we used to do, we used to go to a different town. Said we went to Nottingham. I'd go in a post office and I'd ask what the postcode were across the road. So they give us that postcode of that road. We'd find the number of an house. We'd already got a name on the card, which I'd put on myself. So we're not going through Stripe because there were no magnetic thing on it. We just used to get address. So the address came up. You were guaranteed a £2,000 transaction on it. So we just used to get electrical gear. So I ended up getting caught for that. But do you know what they put it down to when I got sentenced? Fucking shoplifting. They put it down to shoplifting, but really it's a kind of fraud. But they didn't have no for it, if you know what I mean. And yeah, I ended up in Rambe. I got 18 months. That was my last sentence. I did 9 months out in it, and I got out. Yeah, 99. I got out, and my dad died while I was in there. You know what's funny, Ricky, right? I was a gym ogler, so I'm like a trustee. They wouldn't let me go and see him in hospital. No screw had volunteered to take me. But when I went to funeral, they took my handcuffs off.
No,
It's not right, that, is it?
shocking. I've heard this happened many a times when I was in serving my sentences
Mm,
about people's parents or siblings that they're close to. They wouldn't let them go and see them on the deathbed. I've
mm,
even seen situations where they wouldn't even let them go to the funerals of their own parents.
yeah. Well, they let me go at funeral, like obviously with two screws. But when I got into graveyard, like when they were burying my dad, they took my handcuffs off and they let me go and mingle with my pals because a lot of my pals came to see me, you know, while I was out for them couple of hours. Uh, yeah, and I could have fucking run off. I could have done. Oh, I just can't understand why they did it. But that's what they do, innit?
So that was your last sentence. At what age were you then?
I was 39 then when I got out.
Is that
Yeah,
when you thought, this is it for me? I've had enough of that life. Not enough of prison. Moving on.
yeah. Well, you see, I missed a lot of my kids growing up, like through '90s, and I'd had enough. And I ended up getting a job. I got into asbestos and things like that, and went right way. And I wanted to see my kids grow up, Rick, and now like I've done that really because they're both men now. Like my oldest son's 34, my youngest son's 29. Uh, yeah, I've watched them grow up. We're very good friends. We're very good pals, and yeah,
I think
it's
when you
best.
live that life as well, and you've done a lot of prison, and you get into your 30s, your late 30s. I'm 38 now myself. When you get to this age, you're thinking like, there's more to life than that, isn't there?
Oh yeah, like
When you've got kids and a wife or whatever, and you've got responsibilities in the real world, haven't you?
you've got responsibilities. You've just got to pipe down. You've got to try and understand when you're younger, like that this isn't the life. But see, money now is so easy to come by with these little guys. Well, I won't say little, but these guys what are running streets now with drugs and things like that. Money is so easy and they gain loads of it. But they don't realise because as well, while they're running these streets and they're not getting the collars full, they think they're invisible. But once the police decide to come down on them, and then they gain that big sentence and taking them away from everything, that's when they're fucking laid in that cell and they're looking at them bricks on them walls and that fucking air vent, then they'll realise what it's all about.
And the sentences that they're dishing out these days are massive.
Fucking, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Like, fucking
Thing
hell.
is, though, some people still think that the sentences aren't big enough. The sentences are massive if you're in for violence or if you're in for drugs. But if you're in for
Mm,
a sex offence, then the sentences aren't as big.
yeah. Yeah. Like, I've got a mate, right? He shot a guy, killed him. He got a tariff of 38 years. Fucking hell, Yorkshire Ripper didn't get that for 13 murders.
Oh, crazy, you know.
It's crazy. Like, he got a tariff for 38 years and he shot one person. But they know what he was, you see. Do you know what I mean? Do you know he's a fucking lunatic? So they put him away. And he'll be 60 odd when he gets out. He's only a young kid.
That's the thing when they're young as well, full of, we're not even thinking about the actions.
Mm.
Get whacked with a sentence like that, there's nothing you can do. You're stuck with it. And you've got to serve that sentence. You only got two options, either serve the sentence or
Yeah.
take your life and leave in a body bag.
But that 38 stretch, that's before he's got to do that before he's even
Eligible.
thinking about getting a
Crazy.
mad. Kids
So
don't think nowadays, Ricker. They don't think. They don't think about the consequences because they're too into earning money and having all these flash things and things like that. They're not bothered until it hits them, and then when they get that big sentence,
then it's too late.
then it's too late. It's too late. Yeah,
Like you mentioned, when I was in Frankland, some of the tariffs in there, 35s, 40s, and oh,
crazy. Hmm.
so
Like that.
in the 20 years that you've been out then, so I'd imagine you've enjoyed your life.
Oh yeah, loved it. Met totally different kinds of people as well, different kind like friends. You know what I mean? Because all my friends were like criminals. But now I've got a lot of friends what are straight pecs, and they like to hear my stories. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Sit for hours listening to you.
yeah, yeah. Like I've got a bar on my back garden, and straight people in there, and I take the stage, and they love it. They love listening to antics, and they turn around and say to me, "Wow, I can't believe that you got up to things like that. You seem a totally different kind of person." You know what I mean?
But again,
So
sometimes it's the way you're brought up, it's the surroundings, it's the area that you live in. Sometimes it's just can't
yeah,
be avoided, can it?
yeah. No, when I was a kid, like I said, we had no, but I would never blame my mum and dad for how I ended up. Know what I mean? Uh, they had bigger bigger things on the mind when my brother taking care of him. But I just went off at rails myself. It was no to do with them. I just got into a gang of lads who were same as me. And we just got up to all kinds of mischief, which ended up making us thieves, and that was it.
So how long has your book been out now, then when was it published?
I think it's been about 2 or 3 years now. Rob Brennan, you know Jamie Boyle, don't you?
I've seen him on a couple of podcasts, or he's got his own channel, hasn't he?
Yeah, Jamie is a partner. He wrote this book, Rob Brenton. It's a nice book. I've read it myself, actually, and my missus said to me, she goes, "Why don't you read it?" I goes, "Well, it is me." She goes, "Read it." So I read it and actually thought I was reading about somebody else.
Someone else's story.
Yeah, but yeah, it's there. If anybody wants it, you can get it on Amazon, eBay.
Like I say, I'll put the links in the description. Well, Clyde, it's been a pleasure having you on and listening to your story.
Yeah.
I know it's been a long time coming because we have been in talks for the last year or so, but it's just been fitting things in and getting it at the right time. But I think now's been the right time. It's been a good podcast. I've enjoyed having you on.
Yeah, it has been coming a long time, like you said, Ricky, and like it's been really nice to speak to you. And I'm glad you're in the same frame of mind as well about Sykes, because I see all these comments, people calling him nonsense and things like this, and it's they hadn't even got a clue. They're just taking somebody else's word for it, and it's a load of crap, mate.
That's why I don't know if it's the video that you've seen that I've done on Sykes, and that's when you got in touch.
I have, yeah. Yeah, I saw it.
I'd done a bit of research into him, looking on it. I've seen that there was never any accusations. It was just, but then when I looked at what he was in prison for bashing coppers, then he was bashing schools. Then I started thinking, well, obviously this is where the rumors were coming from. And I've spoken to a couple of people like yourself that's also backed your story up about him that said it was a load of. But then you've got
it's only people like us, Ricky, that know. It's the like-minded people what listen to fucking idiots and just jump on bandwagon. That's all it is.
Well, have you seen that podcast? It's called Jail Tales. He's an
Sutton.
I think
Sutton.
So.
He's a fucking idiot,
He probably goes into him and griefs him. I don't watch his stuff, but I watch his videos when he's on about Sykesy. And I was just thinking to myself, like, he's obviously doing it to get the views and get subscribers. And
Ricky, if that was going off, if Sykesy was doing things like that in Sutton's jail, what a fucking bastard of a screw he were then to let it go off.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a fanny merchant. He's a liar. I hate him.
Well, exactly the same what you've just said there. If that was going on, then why didn't they put a stop to it?
Exactly. He's just jumping on bandwagon. That's all he's doing. Like Jamie Boyle did a podcast with him and he never mentioned it once to Jamie because Jamie knows more about Sykes than anybody. Do you know what I mean? And he never mentioned it once to Jamie. He's a liar. He's just doing it for views and clicks. That's all he's doing it for.
Like you say, he wouldn't have said it if he was still alive, would he?
Yeah, would he have? Especially in his prime. He'd have been one of the screws what got sparked.
Clyde, is there anything more you would like to add?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me on, Ricky, and I hope when it goes out, people enjoy it.
I'm sure they will, because like you say, you've got an interesting story, and I'm sure somewhere down the line we could maybe hook up face to face and do a part 2, talk a bit more about the prison stories, about the people that you met along the way, because 12 years is long. Got a lot of stories in them 12 years, and we've only fitted this into what maybe it's about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, I've got plenty of stories, Ricky. We can do that one day, mate.
I know my viewers like hearing these type of stories, so if the viewers do, let us know in the comments if you want to see some more from Clyde later on in the future. We'll be sure to get together and do it again. But I'm going to leave that one there for now, people. Thank you very much, Clyde, for coming on. I wish
Thanks,
you
Ricky.
take care, mate.
Cheers, pal. Bye.
See ya.